Dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to this course of engineering management. Today is lecture number 9, and we will continue to talk about the topic of schedule management or time management and engineering projects or projects in general. Today, we are going to discuss two important topics that we have mentioned last time. The first topic would be the resource identification for construction projects. The second topic would be the resource leveling, again for a construction project, just as an example. So we will start by the topic of resource identification for construction project. Okay, this is just an example. I mean, the same would go for any other type of project with some sort of modification, small modification, not really a major modification. But this example suits more construction projects, but the concept still holds for all other types of projects. Why do we need really to identify the resources? Actually, because for a good plan, and especially when it comes to time or schedule, resources are very crucial and would affect the effectiveness of our schedule or a schedule plan or time plan of the project, and the effect is really a major effect. That's why we care much about the resources and resource identification. Usually we start by personnel resources. Why personnel? Because the human resources are the most important and the major type of resources that we need in any project. That's why we start by the personnel resources. What do we do there? We simply identify and list all team members required for the project. This includes project managers, architects, engineers, site supervisors, and laborers. If any other type of resources is thought of to be needed, then we have to add to this list of resources. Then we have to assess the skills and expertise of each team member and match these skills and expertise to the specific project task. What do we mean by this? We mean that for every and each task we have in the project, we have to go and search for the expertise or those who have enough experience to do such type of task or such types of tasks. Okay, so especially the human resources, we have to be very specific, and we have to target the resources with the expertise needed to accomplish the project defined tasks. Then we have to go for identifying the equipment needed. Okay, equipment also play a crucial role for the success of the project. And what we have to do is to compile a comprehensive list of equipment needed for the construction project. This includes, but not limited to, heavy machinery, tools, and vehicles. Other tools might be needed, then we also have to identify. We have also to consider the maintenance requirements for each piece of equipment. What does this mean? This means that we have to make sure that the piece of equipment needed is readily available on the specified time by the schedule management plan. We have also to test the condition of the equipment or that piece of equipment, okay, to make sure that it's functioning well. And if needed, then we have to assess the maintenance requirements for every and each piece of equipment. Then we have to go for materials. What do we need to do for the materials? We have to create a detailed inventory of materials required for the project, including construction materials, raw materials, and consumables. If other types of materials are needed, then we have also to include in our inventory lists. Then we have to establish a relationship with reliable relationships with reliable suppliers and ensure timely delivery of materials. Why do we have to do so? Because any delay in the supply of materials by the suppliers would certainly cause a delay in the project tasks, consequently would be leading to a delay in the whole project. Then we have to go for by this. Now we are in the era of technology. Advancement and technology is very important and very crucial, and we have to care about this, so we cannot ignore. So we have to identify and leverage automation and control systems relevant to the construction industry. We have also to assess the need for specialized software, communication tools, and project management platforms. Like when it comes to software and tools or project management platforms, a lot of softwares and project management platforms are available in the market. Primavera would be the number one choice when it comes to especially construction projects. Microsoft project is also very famous. Some other types of project management softwares and tools are also available in the market. We've also to care about subcontractors and suppliers. Okay? Why is it so? Because it's really a trend in the market that the main contractors would not be always able to do all the assigned tasks. I mean, when I say assigned, these are the tasks assigned by the sponsor as per the terms and conditions of the contract signed between the sponsor or the owner and the main signed between the sponsor or the owner and the main contractor. Okay, so usually the main contractor would solicit the help of subcontractors. So we have to identify potential subcontractors and suppliers for specialized tasks or materials. Examples of such tasks would be like electromechanical work, for example, when it comes to elevators, okay, firefighting systems, or other systems usually are performed by specialized subcontractors. What we have to do when we evaluate the subcontractors, we have to evaluate their qualifications, past experience, reliability, and past performance on similar projects. we might even ask them to submit some performance certificates from previous projects, similar projects, of course. Then we have to go for regulatory compliance. When we say regulatory, this usually means that we care about the government regulations. So we have to identify any regulatory requirements related to staffing levels, safety standards, and environmental conditions. Okay. So though it's something in most of the cases related to the regulations imposed by governments, but sometimes even if we are hold or stick to standards, especially if this is mentioned, then we are obliged to abide by these regulations. Okay, so we have to consider this when we plan for our resources. So there we have to ensure that the project adheres to all relevant regulations and standards as per the government regulations, the company policy, and the signed contracts. Training and development. Okay, and this is very important to increase the efficiency of the team working on the project. So we have to assess the skills and training needs of the project team while we do so, because we want to improve the performance and increase the efficiency. This would certainly affect the project work. It would affect the performance, the time needed for the project team to perform specific tasks, and also the quality level of the tasks performed. So we have to develop a plan for training and skill enhancement to ensure that the team is well prepared for their roles. Availability and constraints. We've talked about constraints before, and we said that these are the factors that might limit the performance of the project. That might be internal or external or both. Okay, so we have to have a list of constraints. This was mentioned before. We have to consider the availability of resources in terms of project timelines, and we have to identify limitations that could impact the availability or use of resources. This is very important, because if we're not able to identify the constraints, then we'll not be ready to come up with solutions to face these constraints and overcome these constraints. Cost considerations is also very important to consider the cost, because always projects are limited in time and resources. Financial resources are major resources, so we have to estimate the costs associated with each identified resource, and we have to create a budget that accounts for labor costs, equipment rental, or purchase. We have also to account for many other relevant expenses. This is very important, because this is one of the main triangles that we have to assess when we assess the cost of the project. Then risk analysis. I mentioned something about risk, although we'll not dive deep into the concept of risk analysis, at least not for this course. But at least you have to know that we have to conduct a relevant risk analysis to identify potential risks related to resource availability. We have to assess, identify, and assess these risks. And we have also to come up with plans to overcome these risks or to respond to these risks. We have to develop contingency plans unexpected challenges that might arise. Then we come into documentation. And documentation, we maintain comprehensive documentation for each identified resource, including contracts, certifications, and permits. So this is done. I mean, there is someone who's responsible for keeping documentation. Usually, this is called document controller. Okay, someone is assigned, one of the team members is assigned to take care of documents or the documentation of all the reports, the resources, certificates, permits, all of these things. And he's responsible to keep all the records up to date for reference. Then communication and collaboration is very important. I mean, one of the most important jobs that the project manager is doing is communication. So he's to establish clear communication channels with all stakeholders involved in the resource identification process. Why is he's really doing this? I mean, when I talk about the project manager or even the project team, because the identification of stakeholders, as mentioned before, and the identification of all the requirements of the stakeholders is a crucial part of the project planning processes. Then we have to foster collaboration between team members, subcontractors, and suppliers. Then we have to foster collaboration between team members, subcontractors, and suppliers to ensure a cohesive and efficient workflow. So this is very important, communication, okay? We have to have clear communication channels, enough communication channels, okay? This is, of course, defined into more details in the communication management plan. But here, also in the schedule management, we have also to take care of, and there is an interaction between the documentation and the documents that we have in the schedule management plan and the communication management plan. So by this, or by meticulously addressing these aspects of resource identification, you will be well prepared to manage the construction project effectively, utilizing your advanced skills in project evaluation and control. If you have any specific details or preferences, so you have to feel free to provide them for further customization. This means that we can still customize this part of the plan to be more oriented towards achieving the project goals. So this is very important to take note of. Now we come into the second topic of resource leveling, and here we have a resource leveling strategies for construction project. Again, these strategies to a great extent will work well with different types, or just with some little modification. So resource leveling strategies in construction project involve optimizing the allocation of resources to prevent overloads and ensure a smooth overflow. Here are some key strategies. So again, why we do resource leveling? Because actually we want to optimize everything being done in all of the tasks of the project. So we are not concerned with having huge number of resources, not really efficiently assigned to different tasks of the project. Neither we're concerned about delaying the project task because of the non-availability of the resources. So we start by adjusting the task durations to align with resource availability. Where from we get the availability? Usually we get the availability of the resources from the project management office. This is a unit in the organization where all the information about the availability of resources can be found. Then we have to prioritize critical tasks and allocate resources accordingly. When we talk about critical tasks, then we mean the tasks that are found on the critical path. We might discuss the critical path later in this course, but we have to, at least for the time being, to know that critical tasks are the tasks that are on the critical path. And again, what do we mean by this? We mean that any delay in any of these, tasks would lead to a certain delay in the whole project schedule. And we have to prioritize them and give them some sort of priorities. We have to start by handling the tasks with higher priority. Then certainly we have to go to other types of tasks, but we have to start with higher priority tasks. Then we have to go for task dependencies. Okay, and I've talked about dependencies before, and I've mentioned that we have 4 types of dependencies. We have finish to start, finish to finish. In projects, we have finish to start as being the dominant type of dependency. So we have to analyze task dependencies and adjust the sequence of activities, and it has to be a logical sequence of activities. We have to identify opportunities to overlap tasks without compromising quality. So if this is possible, that there were 2 tasks or more than 2 tasks can be done or can be performed in parallel, or at least whether wholly, totally, or partially, then we have to identify these opportunities. Then resource substitution. Okay, we have to identify interchangeable resources for specific tasks. So if we can interchange resources for a specific task or specific tasks, then we have also to identify this possibility, as substituting resources with similar skills can help in balancing workloads. Then task splitting, if possible, of course. So if we have the chance, then we have to divide tasks into smaller components to allow for staggered resource usage. If it's possible, then we have to do it. And then we have to assign different resources to various segments of a task to level the demand. This, again, this is similar to what we talked before about subcontractors, and by resource outsourcing them, implicitly we mean subcontracting. So we consider outsourcing specific tasks to external contractors. This strategy can help in managing resource demand during peak periods. Like if the resources available within the organization are not enough in some peak periods, or when the demand is very high and the projects performed by the organization, then we might go for subcontracting these specific tasks to external contractors. Then resource sharing. Okay, we have to implement a shared resource pool where resources can be allocated based on project priorities. Okay, so again, this is done by the Project Management Office, PMO, okay, where they have a pool of resources, and then they just try to manipulate and divide or assign these resources to the different projects based on the priorities, okay, which they can actually decide after discussing this issue of prioritization with the project managers and with the help of experts sometimes. Then we collaborate with other projects or teams to share resources during peak demand. Okay, this is again done, as I mentioned, with the help of the Project Management Office or PMO. Resource prioritization. Okay, I've talked before about prioritization, but then here we talk about the resources. So we have to prioritize tasks based on project criticality. And based on this, we have to allocate resources first to tasks on the critical path to ensure timely completion. I've mentioned this before when I talked about the resource identification. Then flexible scheduling. Okay, flexibility is very important, so we have to introduce flexibility in task scheduling to accommodate resource. And we have to allow for some tasks to start later or finish earlier based on resource constraints. So just some sort of manipulation for the different tasks, whether shifting back or forward. Cross-training. Training is very important, so we have to cross-train team members to handle multiple tasks or roles. And enhancing skill versatility can also provide flexibility in resource allocation. Overtime or extended hours. This might help in some of the cases, but we have to be very cautious when it comes to overtime or extended hours. And so what we have to do, we have to consider allowing resources to work overtime or extend hours during peak periods. But this, again, as I mentioned, we have to be, because this sometimes would affect the efficiency or the quality of the work being performed, and it might also impact the cost. So we have to evaluate the cost implications and impact on resource efficiency. So this is very important to assess and evaluate before making the decision for this overtime or extended hours. But again, still is some sort of strategy that we can use in some of the cases, especially in the peak period, during the peak periods. Then resource leveling softwares. Again, I've talked about the software, so I'm not going to discuss this again. So you just go back to the previous resource identification strategy, okay, or the source identification. We've talked about the buffer management. What do you mean by buffer? Is the timing between tasks. This, when we say buffer, this is the time between different tasks. So we have to introduce buffer time between tasks to absorb resource variations. So some waiting time. Okay, we have to design this in a proper way so that it doesn't really affect the timing or the total time of the project. So it's just time. When we say buffer, is time inserted, time slots inserted between tasks. This can act as a safety net to accommodate unexpected resource constraints. Real-time monitoring, on a daily basis, step by step. So we have to implement a real-time monitoring system to track resource usage and task progress to make sure that the resources are being utilized in an efficient manner. So regularly we have to assess resource allocation and adjust as needed during the project. Then risk management, which I mentioned before, we have to use, or we can use the risk management strategies and identify the risks and find solutions to, mitigate or decrease the impact of these different types of risks or respond to different types of risks. And the last thing is the continuous improvement. Certainly from time to time we have to improve because still we are performing, there is training, a lot of things are being done, more experience, things are being greatly elaborated. Okay, progressive elaboration takes place. So we have to conduct regular, change some of the strategies or modify some of the strategies. And we have to document lessons learned and apply improvement to future projects. This is an inevitable part of our journey into perfection and being more efficient. So, applying these strategies will certainly enhance the efficiency of resource allocation in construction projects. It will also minimize conflicts and will ensure more balanced workload throughout the project life cycle. Again, we remind you that you might want to adjust these strategies based on the unique characteristics and requirements of your construction project. This again depends on the type of project, the complexity of the project, okay, the situations or the environmental factors affecting the project and any other factors that might be dominant during the project planning or project execution. I'll stop here and wish to see you soon in the next coming lecture. Best of luck.